business, but think about it personally. If you got a personal matter that's going on and there's an issue, don't you want to know about it? The answer is yes. And so we need to translate that to business.
Welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
Where we were talking about visibility, and it was kind of why you want to be visible. And so really the visible part is maybe you're striving to be visible. You know, that's your goal. I think it's an okay goal as long as your motives behind it. Why do you want to be visible? But then it's also from the perspective of, I'm already visible, you know, Howie, I'm already visible, beast mode. Maybe I'm a leader of, you know, this certain company, or, you know, I got a ton of followers on social media because of this. And so how do I maintain a value and visibility at the same time? You know, maybe I got my visibility out of doing things I shouldn't have done. Maybe I paid for it. Maybe I changed my ethics. Maybe I did some things or whatever. Or maybe I sought visibility for the wrong reason initially. But now I'm here. How do I maintain my value? How do I continue to strive where I'm at? You know, that's kind of where I'm hoping this conversation goes today.
Okay. Well, I don't have a lot of experience in being visible. I've had little patches of that, very small patches of that, like big recognition in front of a company for this or that, you know, a few times. Or when I did my startup, there was a time I was kind of visible. Even though it didn't work out, there was a splash. There was a period of time that it was visible. But I don't have like where I've had this huge. I have had social media posts go viral though. So I've had them a few days or a week where I had some pretty good visibility. You know, so I guess I've had tastes of that, but it's not like I've had some rocket ship that just keeps on going. It's been more like a fairly normal you know, quote unquote, normal business life and career filled with problems and challenges that I've had to overcome. And I will say that I tended to get more resilient and more creative and more knowledgeable. And, you know, going through those things, although I didn't see it at the time, but I haven't had just like a lot of times of huge recognition or visibility. But I also don't crave that. So I like to be praised more like one-on-one, like a valued person saying something.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Last episode. Yeah. Where your personality is geared more towards, I like praise, I like the value and the visibility, but it's great when it's from my spouse. It's great when it's from a specific person I value in my company or something like, but I don't need the whole company looking at me. And so, but my initial follow-up I wanted to ask you was, so you have a post that goes viral and it gets, I don't know how many thousands of views or comments or whatever.
Yeah.
But is your initial, because I haven't had that. So is your initial thought or feeling over the next days, weeks after that is, how can I replicate that? Or is it, I was just producing content and this is the content that there was value in?
I get a lot of.
Can you remember back?
Yeah, I have had a lot of satisfaction of that. I tend to check. You know, it's fun to have likes and views and all that stuff. So I tend to be logging in a lot and checking and all that, and kind of enjoying the moment. And then does it chase me to post another thing to try to get more? Not so much. I'm in such a habit of posting I actually don't know my own heart well enough to tell you about that. I'm not sure. Maybe it influences me a
Yeah.
little bit, but in general, I have a real habit of just posting from passion and sort of like purpose and intentionality. So I kind of do it whether it's working or not, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do too.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, some of that comes back from a branding perspective.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, my recommendation when somebody's like, "Hey, you know, I want to have a following like Gary Vee," or somebody who maybe you on the other end of this listening right now, you follow that has a big crowd. You know, for me, it's like, okay, can you get 5 people following? Can you produce quality content that 5 people follow? Okay, now you got five. Can you do 10? Can you do 20? Like that would be my incremental as a branding guy. That's how I would go. I would focus like that. You know, if you went from five to 500,000, you know, though not only the weight of having that potentially would just stress most people out, but your the ramifications of uh, content quality. Whereas if you gradually get there, your content is just is the value of your content is what earned it. And so as you grow, so does your following grow.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so then if magically all of a sudden you have 500,000 followers or 5 million or 50 million, well, your content is is deemed worthy of the following. And so you don't have, so like for me, I've talked about it before, you know, I try to plan out things in advance so it gives me the freedom to be spontaneous. And so I know what I'm going to talk about sometimes weeks or months in advance because I've already thought about it, you know. And so that's really the fact of the matter, that it just lays the foundation for just quality content that builds on itself.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to add value.
I mean,
And
that's really what I'm doing as well. Is I kind of have probably 5 things that I talk about. I probably have like 5 different areas that I talk about the most. Like inspirational stuff is one of them. Feedback is another one. Um,
yeah,
Cybersecurity is one. Job search hunting is one, and then sometimes humor, but it's not very often. So like the fifth one is probably a swap between humor or operationalizing goodness. That's kind of a mini series that I've done a few things on, like Nike doing shoes out of recycling or Cinemark installing car chargers. So I do, that's kind of like but it's a very part-time, not a committed series that I'm doing. So I kind of have like 4 to 5 things that I post about a lot. And then there might be a random one. They're not scheduled out like yours. They're more, I try to occasionally hit all those buckets. Like I'm kind of due for a job search one, like probably past due actually. So I'm thinking about what, for my own job search, what can I do to add value? And what I find is that, so check this out. What I find is that some of my spontaneous inspirational stuff tends to do a little
mm.
better sometimes. Uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah, than my intentional, like number 33 in a series of job search tips.
yeah,
But I also know that
yeah,
yeah, but I also know that by being organized, those become searchable. I have a hashtag I use with those, which is careers 411. So people can go search that and then they can follow it and then they can get all of them. So I have
yeah,
there's more discipline behind those, my job search one and my cybersecurity for the family one. Those two have
yes,
a lot of process behind them, but they also don't get like, I get like 15 likes or 20 likes, but it's
yeah,
areas that I'm trying to help out because I work for a cybersecurity company. And so I'm trying to add value in the cybersecurity space, which has a branding effect and an affinity effect where I'm adding value to that community, but I'm also trying to subtly get the word out about my company to help them out, so
yes,
and frankly, the topic of cybersecurity for family is totally ignored mostly by the world. It's really bad, actually. So and grandma's getting hacked all the time because no one tells her like, don't click on stuff. It's like stupid. And job search stuff is like a painful one. I mean, I had a gentleman ping me today because I had offered prayer for people recently. I just probably twice a year, once a year, I offer prayer. And so somebody hit me up on that today. And I actually did leave him a LinkedIn voicemail prayer about his job search. So like, there's just a huge need for that type of thing. But then I've had posts that I can't explain why they go really viral, but they're just inspirational, like something that blessed me and helped me through a hard time. I'll just post it, and then it somehow the algorithm found it, and then people clicked on it enough that more people found it or whatever. I don't know. But I think I like what you're saying a lot. Like if you can sort of post or do, it's not just posting, but whatever you do inside the company as well. Or if you're an entrepreneur or if you're an employee of a company, if you can just not post, if you can just do your production of your work, whatever that is, whether it's a post or something else, if you can do that out of purpose and out of what you're interested in, that's a really helpful thing to think about. Like, are you interested? If it bores you to death, I'm not sure it's a great thing for you to spend time on. But if you're interested in it and it makes a difference and you can do it kind of out of a little bit of energy, a little bit of passion, I think it's good to do that and not worry about the results so much. And so if you
Yeah.
get some visibility from that, then great. But remember what got you there. It wasn't seeking visibility, it was seeking value. Do
Yes.
you see
And
how
I
I,
would totally
do you see how I
say,
tied this back to your
huh?
original point? Do you see how I tied that back to your original point?
You're a genius, you know. But
It's your topic.
my
I'm just spitballing on you.
yeah. Well, I think what we're saying is that by consistently adding value, you're raising your floor. That I mean, that's something that I've said in branding discussions, is that you want to raise your floor. You you're not necessarily after, skyrocketing the ceiling. If I can just continually move my floor up, then if the ceiling shoots up, great. But if it doesn't, just exponentially, then my floor has now maintained myself. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I'm constantly putting out quality content that's providing value, more people are going to steadily come. And then if I have a post or if I have a thing at work that happens where all of a sudden now all eyes are on me for that moment for whatever reason, you know, and let's just say it's quick, kind of like what you were sharing about with one of your posts where it just went viral and great. Well, now my floor is where it is. There's not, the drop off isn't as drastic because my floor is continually being raised up to meet it.
What do you mean
You
by
know,
what do you mean by floor?
my floor. So again, if I'm just providing quality content, then what I'm doing is over time. So you're saying, yeah, I have 15 people who consistently like my stuff. It didn't start out as 15. It probably started out as one or nobody, right? And so your floor is now 15, right? So I post something almost every time, I'm going to get 15 likes. That's my floor. So whenever I get 100, wonderful. And so now maybe my floor is now increased to 20 because 100 out of 100, I got 5 new that have bought in to what I'm consistently putting out. So now my floor continually raises a little bit, and over time, maybe my floor is 1,000 people viewing my stuff every post. And this is, and for you, and especially somebody like you and like me who are consistent quality posters, who are posting at least once a day, sometimes multiple times. I mean, having that many people checking your stuff out, tuning in with you is pretty good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And also, I'm not sure if this is on topic or not, but I'm just gonna say it because we're talking about posting. Um, Not everybody is going to be a Gary V. Um, and not everybody, and I don't think Gary V is necessarily even the example for people, or Elon Musk, right? because not everybody has the right timing with the right gift, with the right marketplace need and the right exposure and the right promotion. There's too many things that have to be sort of like come together to have those things happen. And then some of the people, if they did have all that happen, they might be crippled because they don't want that exposure, right? Like, to be honest with you, being an introvert, I'm not sure how much I would like that. Number one. Number two, I'm people takes a while for people to get to know me because I'm not necessarily, I think I'm a little different. Okay. And so I must really be different to outsiders. And doesn't mean like I'm weird. It doesn't mean I'm unkind. Doesn't mean I'm too kind. Just means like I'm kind of a niche. So I'm not sure my audience will ever necessarily be explosive on LinkedIn, but that's okay. Because Seth Godin says, like, people, as long as you have your tribe, that's your tribe. Your tribe might be 50 really committed people, and it's also
Yeah.
like, if we worry more about the value than about the tribe, then I feel like the tribe um, will happen. And also remember this. We're talking about social media a ton, on this episode, but a very similar thing happens at work, in your career or in your business, which is that you kind of like, you work hard and you sweat and you bleed, and you kind of find, over time, you kind of find some niches, some areas where you're kind of strong, kind of different. And people also sort of tend to find you for those things at some point as well. So having a little
Yeah.
bit of observation of what you're good at is really important in this process, but also understanding, like with me, I might just be a certain flavor. Like, how many people want like coffee with cinnamon in it? I might be coffee with cinnamon in it. I mean, that's okay, but there may be a fairly small audience for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess my example would be, and to take it away from social media, is if you put in constant quality work where you have a work ethic, you have an output, you have a steady flow of productivity. If you're in sales, hitting quotas and stuff like that, then you're raising your floor to where, if you, let's just say you get a promotion and it's you go from a sales manager to a VP, right? And so what happens is, now you've had this drastic jump. Technically, you've gone viral in our perspective, and now your following is grown. But let's just say that doesn't work out for whatever reason. Maybe the company is not the right fit, the role isn't what you thought it was, whatever. Because I've maintained my floor, now I'm able to go back to where I was, and not necessarily, the drop off isn't as drastic, as opposed to, I'm just thinking of that movie Limitless, where that guy takes a pill and he goes from being a nobody to somebody, and then what happens is he doesn't take the pill and he goes all the way back to being a nobody. You're going all the way back to zero. Whereas if you raise your foundation, and again, whether this is in relationship, whether it's in your day-to-day work, or you're posting on social media, then if there is a boost, then from the boost back down isn't as far of a drop.
Yeah.
And so that would be my example, is that this goes the same thing in just personal relationships. So maybe I'm not looking to be visible on social media. Maybe I'm looking to be visible at home. I want to increase my visibility to the person that I'm with. How do I do that? Well, provide value to the person. I want to provide, maybe I'm looking to be valuable to my team of 10 people at work. That's it. That's all I care about. I'm an introvert. I don't want a big whatever, but I want my team of 10 to notice. So I need to provide value to my 10. It goes into what you're saying. Wherever it applies, at home, on your team, on your softball team, wherever you are, if you're on a softball team, just catch the ball, catch and throw, like Smalls on the sandlot. He wasn't the greatest, but he did the little things, and it increased his value, increased his visibility. Now he was able to play, because he could catch and he could throw.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, focusing on kind of what you're good at, and not really stressing too much about what you're not good at, and also not stressing about your audience size and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, and so part of it goes back into the why portion. Okay, I want to increase my visibility. Well, what are you wanting to increase it to? Are you are you wanting to go, I want to increase it from I got 3 people on my team who notice me and I want the entire company to notice me. Okay, that's not really rational, and it's there. I would feel like there's an unhealthy reason behind that. But if I can say, okay, I want my team of 10 to notice, I want to be visible, I think that's healthy because it's your team, and I want to go from 3 to 10. Okay, and I also think that's a little bit more rational. So I think there's some of that. There's a self-awareness portion where somebody who's just an inconsistent poster on social media says, I want to be Gary Vee, I want to have a following like that. Well, I think you're irrational, and I think you're unhealthy. I don't think those are good goals.
I just, I really feel like this is something that spoke to me today at work that I think I can pass along to somebody on this broadcast, which is, if you chase recognition, or if you chase some of those types of things, okay? Right, in my case, I wasn't chasing recognition. In my case, I'm kind of newer, so I'm proving myself, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm really have to prove myself for the first few months of my job. So it's not actual recognition, it's more like that phenomenon. But what I was thinking about today, I had this kind of like a little bit of a quiet time. And what spoke to me is like, I should focus on the exciting change I want to drive and not focus on proving myself part of my job, which I think most people would understand that if you're new in a job. I mean, I hope people can give me a little grace, the fact that I had to say that, because I think it's fairly normal to feel that you have to prove yourself in a new job. But today I kind of had this really cool revelation, which is like, why don't you focus on adding the value and driving exciting change in a positive way with a very enthusiastic, just in a free way, like unhindered by whether or not, it's part of your plan to prove yourself and make sure people know they made the right decision to hiring you and all that kind of stuff. And just focus on the actual thing, focus on the actual, adding the actual value and building that new process, or fighting that new, that problem that you discovered, or supporting someone, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish at work that kind of gives you energy and that you see a need you can fill, or in your business or in marketing or in whatever. Instead of focused on like the notoriety side of it or the proving yourself or whatever you're trying to build, focus on the actual activity and the actual actions. And then some of the recognition stuff will happen at some point that you're wanting, but you didn't focus on that, which is an uglier it's kind of an ugly thing to focus on, doing something because you want visibility versus doing it out of passion and purpose.
Yeah, and oftentimes if we're busy looking at an outcome, whether it's visibility or whether it's better grades or whether it's a promotion or a sale, and we're not focused on the day in and day out of just providing value or the study, or the relationship building, whatever the analogy is for whichever example I just gave that pertained to you. If we're focusing on the end, then oftentimes our day in and day out isn't quality enough to hit our goal, because we're looking at something that's either too far off, it's not attainable, or we're just missing. We're going to miss the day in and day out stuff because we're looking over here. Whereas if you just, like Craig Rochelle says, if you want to make a big change, well then make it that big change every day for the next, year. Because they talk about that with New Year's resolutions. Why they fail is because you make the resolution the goal, and that's not it. I want to stop smoking. Well, let's not focus on stop smoking. I want to be healthier, and this is just stopping smoking is just something that allows me to get healthier. And so my goal is to get healthy, not stop smoking. And so if I'm making a little bit incremental improvement, then I'm getting towards my goal, and it's not an all or nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing with my weightlifting. I got injured in April, and it was like a lot of physical therapy and a major setback. And now I'm back, but my weights are way lower, and I'm finding my way. So if I look at it like I'm going to do a New Year's resolution, then if I have a major setback like that, then maybe I failed. Versus if you focus on the habit and just say, no, I'm a person who works out, I'm a person who lifts weights, I'm a person who does this, then I get eventually the outcome of having a little bit, looking a certain way and feeling strong and being healthier and being more physically capable. But it's more of an infinite game, in Simon Sinek's words,
yes,
than it's a finite game. So I think if people want to take to work or social media or whatever, or business or their ministry or their nonprofit or whatever they're doing, if they want to take a success that is unstoppable, a New Year's resolution is something that you do once, versus a habit and a persona is something that you become forever. Like if you said, hey, I want to read the Bible in a year, and it's like, okay, well, the good thing about that habit is it's a daily little 15-minute thing, right? So it's like, and I did that last year. It took me 13 months, not 12. So that sucks because I didn't do it in a year. But on the other hand, I did it in first time all the way through in a row. And I just started again, and I'm 3 weeks in or whatever it is, and I'm caught up. So I'm going to try to stay caught up. So now I'm the kind of person who reads their Bible in a year every year, versus like, oh, I failed by a month, right? So I feel like if you set short-term goals, I think it's good to have goals, but also what if you just said, I'm going to become the kind of I'm going to be posting on these 5 topics or these 3 topics on social media for the rest of my life, because I have a passion to do it. And occasionally they seem to make a difference to somebody. And so I have some kind of tribe out there I can speak to, right? Or like, I'm going to be the kind of person who, does XYZ to drive change at work. And even if I get no recognition from it, that's not the point. The point is the work. And the point is I'm the kind of person who does this, right? I'm borrowing a little bit of language from Seth Godin, in case some of you guys listen to him. I don't think he exactly talks about this topic, but that phrase, I'm the kind of person, I got that from him. I think I might be applying it differently. But the point is, if I'm the kind of person who, I can see myself in my mind's eye right now at 85, and I have a bicep. I can see that, and you guys can laugh, but that's how I see myself. I see myself as somebody who is, maybe even running. I don't know. I don't run today because I'm worried about joints and the impact of the long term. But I'm interested in running, but I'm at least thinking about lifting weights and swimming and walking and elliptical until I'm dead. And I want to just do that. That's what I want to do. I also want to read the Bible every day until I'm dead. I also want to, be faithful to my wife. There's certain things I want to do in life. And so it's almost like focus on building the habit of X, Y, and Z and making decisions that are repeatable. And I like what you said a few minutes ago, which is like small things versus these planet moves. Like, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest. Well, so far you haven't climbed to the park. But become the kind of person who walks to the park every day first.
Yeah. It's really, and we talked about this, man, almost, I would say 8 months ago, maybe 10 months ago when we talked. when we talked about forecasting and we talked about vision, like I want to forecast, because your phrase, I want to be the kind of person. So it's like, I want to be the kind of person that is visible. Okay, so let's start creating daily habits and routines and a lifestyle that would achieve that. But let's focus on doing that. And if I become visible, wonderful. But if I don't, then what I'm left with is a lifestyle. Again, I've increased my floor, so now I have a lifestyle of whatever it is. So I want to go from a couch to a marathon. So let me do the habits and the lifestyle and the regimen to run a marathon. But if I don't run a marathon, my floor is now, maybe I'm a half marathon. My floor is a lot higher than what it was.
I would just go to the opposite perspective. So if I'm trying to focus on how I'm selling a customer, then I would go look at how are we being sold? Whatever we're being sold on, what do we not like whenever we get sold? How is that similar to what our customers feel?